Napoleon Bonaparte was not born ordinary. He carved greatness from the bones of the earth. From the start, his eyes held storms. Every street he walked, every hall he entered, he measured the world as a chessboard. And the first lesson he learned was that power waits for no one, and mercy is a weakness. By 26, he was a general. Armies obeyed him with blind loyalty, fearing him as much as they revered him. Napoleon's story is fire and steel. Ambition too vast for any throne, too ruthless for friends, too brilliant for enemies. He rose from a world shaking with revolution, a France that had overthrown kings and burned with freedom and terror alike. The air smelled of smoke and blood, and he inhaled it like a prophecy. His first victories were small and barely noticed, border skirmishes and hill maneuvers that hinted at something greater. His soldiers called him the Little Corporal, a nickname meant to mock, but every word he spoke turned it into legend. His mind was lightning. He saw the battlefield as a map, predicting moves before enemies imagined them. And yet, he was not just a strategist. He was a tyrant of his own destiny, a man who would bend the world to his will and laugh at those who dared defy him. When he stepped into Italy, the continent shivered. Cities surrendered at his approach, and armies fell apart as though touched by a spell. He moved faster than the couriers could carry news, and every victory fed his ambition like oil on a fire. Venice, Milan, Turin. They all whispered his name with fear. In palace shadows, kings and generals plotted, never grasping that he had no equal, playing a game they could not even see. Yet for all his brilliance, he carried a darkness in him, a hunger that no crown could satisfy. His eyes, cold and calculating, missed nothing, and he would betray even friends if the cost was too high to ignore. The campaign in Egypt was supposed to be glorious, and for a moment, it was. He marched through deserts that burned under the sun, defeating Mamluks and Ottomans, spreading French power to lands that had never imagined such terror. But the Nile could not be conquered, and disease crept among his men like a silent enemy. Ships sank, armies starved, and letters from home carried rumors of discontent. Still, Napoleon returned to France as a hero. The people, hungry for order after years of revolution, welcomed him like a god. He had survived the impossible and turned disaster into legend. And once more the world learned that he would not be denied. He seized power in 1799, a coup that changed everything. France became his stage, the continent his playground, and the crown, first metaphorical then literal, was his alone. He crowned himself emperor, refusing to let the Pope place the crown on his head. The gesture was simple, almost casual, yet it shouted to the world that Napoleon answered only to himself. Every policy, every law, every battlefield strategy bore his mark. The Napoleonic Code swept Europe with iron reason, proving that under him law was his will and people served the empire. War followed him like a shadow. He moved across Europe with the speed of a storm, crushing coalitions, winning battles that seemed impossible. Austerlitz, Jena, Wagram, names that would terrify generations of soldiers. And yet every victory carried a cost. Thousands of men died, cannon fire ripping the earth, turning fields into graves. Napoleon watched the bodies pile up, counting losses with the same cold calculation he used for resources. Yet he always moved forward, never satisfied, never resting, driven by a vision only he could see. And his enemies, trembling kings and generals, began to whisper his name in fear, as if speaking it aloud might summon him. But ambition has a price, and the world cannot be conquered by one man alone. The Russian campaign was a mythic mistake. His once invincible army was devoured by winter, disease, and hunger. Moscow burned, a city of fire and ash, and yet even in victory, it was a defeat. Men froze where they stood, wagons overturned in the snow, and the cries of dying soldiers filled the empty plains. Napoleon himself survived, but his aura of invincibility cracked, and Europe sensed vulnerability. Still, he would not surrender. He returned to France to find enemies gathering, plots in motion, and yet the people still adored him. For a moment, he seemed untouchable, a god in human skin, yet the seeds of his fall had been planted in the snow of Russia. Exile to Elba was supposed to end him. The island was small, its hills unremarkable, yet Napoleon found a way to dominate it as he had every battlefield. But the fire within him would not be contained. In 1815 he escaped, returned to France and marched on Paris, his force swelling as men rushed toward the living legend. And for one brief, shining 100 days, he was emperor again, a man who had returned from death itself. The Battle of Waterloo waited, though, a reckoning that would test the limits of even his genius. Waterloo. The ground was soaked with rain, the air thick with mud and smoke. Napoleon rode among his men, calm, calculating, knowing the eyes of the world were upon him. Cannons roared, muskets cracked, horses screamed, and yet he moved like a phantom, always 2 steps ahead, always imagining victory. But fate has a way of humbling even the greatest. The Prussians arrived, the Allied forces held firm, and the tide turned. Napoleon fought like a man possessed, yet the storm that had always followed him now became his undoing. Orders were missed, timing failed, and for the first time he faced defeat, not as a temporary setback, but as an absolute. The empire he had built on fire, blood, and genius crumbled in a single terrible day. Exile again, this time to St. Helena, a rock in the middle of the Atlantic, surrounded by storm and sea. He was alone, stripped of armies, crowns, and titles. Yet even there he ruled in the minds of his followers and in the fears of Europe. He wrote, he remembered, he plotted in the shadows of his own mind, a prisoner of land, yet free in thought. And when he died, on a cold May day in 1821, the world lost one of its most brilliant, most terrifying figures. His body was gone, but his legend would never die. Ambition, hunger for power, brilliance and cruelty echoed through history like endless cannon fire. Napoleon Bonaparte is not just a man. He is a storm that tore through Europe, a shadow that haunted kings, a mind that reshaped law, warfare, and destiny itself. He was genius and terror intertwined, a reminder that some men are born to dominate, to frighten, to change the world whether it wants it or not. His victories inspire awe, his defeats warn, and his life proves that greatness is taken, not given, often at the cost of everything else. He lived for power, for glory, for the chance to bend the world to his vision. He loved, he hated, he destroyed, and he created, all in equal measure. In the end, history remembers the man who rose from a small island to shake Europe, proving the cost of being too brilliant and too dangerous to ignore. Napoleon was a lesson in blood and fire, glory and ruin, his shadow stretching across time as a warning to those who reach too high. The fields of Austerlitz, the streets of Paris, the cold wind of St. Helena, they all remember him. And the world, forever changed, whispers his name with a mixture of awe and fear. History has more fascinating figures waiting in the shadows. Like, share, and subscribe to explore their worlds. Epic stories of power, ambition, and fate. Thank you for watching.